welcome to Groundwater Talk Live for December 16th, 2021. We're glad you're with us. I was planning originally on doing this to stream from the National Groundwater Association, which is in Nashville, right up the road from us. And unfortunately, I'm feeling a little under the weather and just did not. I'm feeling a lot better, but I just didn't want to go and potentially spread something around. So, wisdom being the better part of valor, decided to stick around in the studio today, and I really hate missing National Groundwater Association, especially when it's right in my backyard. But we don't want to spread anything around if there's a possibility of that happening. So here I am in the studio with you today, and I appreciate everybody that watches this, and we certainly hope we got some good information for you today. So let's kind of move on here. Before we get going, I wanted to do a little bit of a plug here. We have a training coming up next week, the well health check process for diagnosing well problems. That's coming up next Tuesday, December 21st, running from it starts at 9 o'clock Pacific time, 11 Central. So we look forward to that. You can register. Here's the registration information. It's a 1 hour training, good for one contact hour. We'll provide a certificate for that. And anybody that's taken any training with me before knows that we pack a lot of information in. So you get it. You take an hour's worth of training, you get about an hour and a half worth of training. It's really what it comes down to. So there we go. That's the plug for that. Um, so what we have coming up today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the pros and cons of pre-designing wells. We've had some issues with our supply chain out there that's been going on this year, and certainly that's really affected the well design and installation business. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we can address some of those issues. We're going to talk about we haven't talked about this before, but a really great resource if you're in California. Last week we talked about Texas a little bit. This week we're back in California, going to discuss California's groundwater, which is DWR Bulletin 118. That's kind of the venerable definitive state publication on groundwater in the state, and they update that every few years, and this is the 2020 update is the most recent one. Haven't talked about that, but there's a wealth of information there. If you're dealing with groundwater at all in California, we're gonna give you a look at that. We're not going to go through it page by page, obviously, but kind of show you what's there and what's useful, and then the accompaniment to that is a website called California's Groundwater Live. And that's going to have some real-time information. Well, not quite real-time information, but information on wells around the state and data there on water levels and water level trends and subsidence and things like that that is useful information for you. And so I'll give you a look-see at that as well. So that's going to be a lot of information. So we'll probably go right to our hour again. If you're around, I see Steve. Steve is here, so good morning, Steve. Steve's always here. He's good and faithful. If you're watching on LinkedIn or YouTube, drop us a line in the chat, and we will we'll acknowledge you or let us know where you're tuning in from. It'd be good to see. So if you can do that, we'd certainly appreciate that. So let's talk about first. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of pre-designing wells, and what's really going on here is everybody's seen it. We got supply chain issues out there, and it's really affecting all parts of our lives. But those of us in the water well industry, we're seeing long lead times on pumps, casings, screens, and a lot of the materials. We ran into problems on a well recently where it took us months to get gravel back. I mean, we ended up having to change around our design a little bit just so we could get the materials we needed to finish this well. So it's definitely impacting people, and we're just trickling in that there are people out there that are actually going out and pre-designing wells, and you got your months out there from constructing the well, but you've actually gone and pre-designed the well and pre-ordered the materials so that you can get what you need in the time frame you need it. So we're going to talk about the pros and cons of that, the ins and outs, some considerations there, some substitutions, that type of thing, and I'm assuming people are going to have sort of a let me get my mic over here, right? People are going to have some opinions on that. I wanted to give people an opportunity. I thought we'd do things a little differently today if we have anybody on the line, and I didn't give as much notification on this one as I could have because I was still considering going to Nashville. So we had this one that we put together, and so I didn't give as much notification. But if we got people that are on the horn, uh, I wanted to give people an opportunity. So I'm going to take this link here and give me just a minute. I'm going to pop it in the chat for LinkedIn. And let me just take a minute here to do this. And see if I can actually make this happen here. Come on. All right, let me pop this in the chat here, and um, this is actually a link to. Let me get that in there. Sorry about this. This is not okay. Somehow we are. That's not working there. Let me try it on our YouTube channel here. This may not work. I seem to be having some challenges here with LinkedIn. The live stream can be kind of funky, is really what it can. But okay, so on YouTube, as we're on YouTube, this is the link. If you want to hop on the show, you can just come right on, and we'll have you come in and talk to you about that. And let me see if I can fix the LinkedIn. There we go. See if we can do that. Man, this is just. All right. There's the link on LinkedIn to come on the show if if somebody wants to pop on and have some comments about any of this stuff here. So let me get back to uh, LinkedIn can just really be funky sometimes. So it's certainly not as mature a platform. There's a lot of people watching it, but it's not as mature a platform um, as as YouTube and some other ones. So we just got to live with it. So there we go. Anyway, there is the show invite. This is what it looks like here. If you have any comments on what I'm saying and you want to actually come on the show, this is something I haven't done before, so it's kind of an experiment. But if you want to pop on and have some comments in real time here, then feel just click that link. It's on either LinkedIn or our YouTube channel and in the comments, and you can come on and tell us what you think and exchange some ideas because my ideas are my own and stuff I've picked up around the internet and based on experience and things. So I may not cover everything. So I appreciate people's input on this stuff. So if you want to come on, there's the link. So we'll see how that goes. This is just kind of an unplanned experiment, but we'll see how it goes. Anyhow, there's a lot of components that go into wells, obviously, and these are all ones that I see where we've run into problems with supply chain issues and not being able to get things in a timely manner. And it's holding up. Not just for us, but for other people out there. It is holding up production, and sometimes for months, 6 months or more. I mean, you're really having trouble getting things. We like I mentioned earlier, we had issue getting gravel pack, and we just could not get it anywhere. This is for a well in Northern California. We looked all over the state and could not find any gravel pack anywhere. So that's like crazy because there's a lot of wells being built, but it's not like the gravel pack is sitting on a ship off the coast of Los Angeles coming from China, or maybe it is. I don't know. But for the most part, the gravel pack is going to be produced if you need it in California, it's going to be produced in California or wherever it's going to be produced in the U.S. So it's kind of crazy that stuff like gravel pack would be in short supply, but it is indeed, and it's intermittent. You just can't tell, and this is the part of the problem with the supply chain issues we're having right now is you just cannot tell what. What's going on with it, and we so that's why we're really looking at pre-design, or at least some other options, pre-design and some other substitutions, those types of things that and the pros and cons of that. So anyway, screen, casing, gravel pack, even seal materials. We've had trouble getting cement at times. That's usually not as long a lead time, obviously, as some of these other things, but for Pete's sakes, even cement has been in short supply in places for getting our well seals done. So pumps, that's kind of all over the board. We've seen some that are 2 or 3 days supply, so it depends on what type of pump you need. Some more specialty type pumps may be longer lead times, but that's something you want to look at as well. Even things like drop pipe, sounding tubes, these are things that are smaller things that go into the well, but stuff that you really need to have on hand. I mean, you don't want to hold up your entire well because you don't have a sounding tube, material for that. So, and even things like disinfection chemicals, the chlorine and other chemicals, those can be in short supply as well. So one of the things is it's really important to do your proper planning and order ahead of time, pre-design things, if you will, or at least take into account and order up your materials as far in advance as you can. Now, like I say, there's some pros and cons of this, and I just lost my. All right, there are some pros and cons. of this, let's look at first substitutions. There's people that are looking at things. Okay, we can't get what we're really looking at for our well. We want a steel casing. Is it a smaller well where maybe we can get away with PVC, and is PVC available? And the PVC may not be available either, but it's something that you can look at, maybe substituting that. I am not a fan of PVC cased and screened wells for really anything over 8 or 10 inches. Municipal wells, certainly not. I just don't think they hold up as well. I think the PVC has come a long ways and it's gotten good, and so for like industrial type wells or smaller municipal water districts that have an 8 or 10 inch well that's not really deep, then maybe the PVC is okay. But you can certainly look at that. You can look at different grades of steel too. I mean, maybe you want stainless. Maybe stainless is got a really long lead time, and you got to look at something like HSLA. Um, it's certainly a compromise. If you have a highly corrosive environment, then that's probably not a substitution you'd want to make. But these are things that got to go on the table if you're looking at you need to get this well in, and what are we doing for our materials. Submersible versus turbine pumps. There is certainly a sweet spot for submersible pumps versus turbine pumps, and how they're used, and so this is something that you can look at. But some people say, okay, we're in that zone where we can either use a submersible or a turbine, and that may be something we look at switching around, and certainly that can be a solution as well. It's like I say, you really got to look heavily at the pump curves and the use cases, and what the pumps are designed for, potential wear and tear, and your particular situation. But it is an opportunity to if you're looking for a submersible and you can't get one, then a small turbine may be a good choice for substituting and getting that well online. Sometimes the wells need to get online. It needs to go forward. They need the water. They have a failing well, and so sometimes you got to make that substitution and keep the project moving forward. Things like wire wrap versus louvered screen. Most people these days like the wire wrap, but louvered is certainly an acceptable substitution, and you just got to look at the flow characteristics of that and go for the appropriate substitution there. And I usually don't have too much problem with that. Louvered is a little less efficient than wire wrap, but it's certainly an acceptable solution, and it's a good solution. So it's something that you might want to look at as well, even if you had your heart totally set on wire wrap. If it's not available, or if it's got a really long lead time, then looking at a louvered screen might be a good substitution as well. Screen openings. We've actually done this as well, so not a huge difference between something like, say, a 05 inch or an 06 inch slot. So you can maybe mess with that a little bit, and if you have 05 versus 06, maybe you take a little bit of hit on your well efficiency and go with the 05 and appropriately sized gravel, and that may be the answer for you. We've actually had to do this recently ourselves, where we did not have the proper opening, or the opening that we'd spec'd for based on our sieve analysis, and we had to substitute a smaller opening. It's going to result in a less efficient well, less than optimal, but it gets the well done. So that's one option. Another option is the gravel pack. I really hesitate to mess with this too much, because you can get sanding issues. You can get too fine, too thick. It's when it comes to gravel pack, it's kind of the Goldilocks principle. You want it to be just right, not too fine, not too coarse. But there's a little bit of variability there, and maybe you can change up both the screen and the gravel pack. Once again, it's going to give you a less efficient well, but it may be that it's available where the other stuff you may be waiting months to get. So that's something you got to look at. So it's kind of playing around with your design, but what is acceptable and what isn't is really what it comes down to. Is how far can you go making these substitutions as opposed to it has to be the exact spec that was called for. We ran the sieve test. This is what it called for, and that's exactly what it's got to be. In these days of supply chain disruptions, you may not be getting exactly what you want. So these are things to look at too. Is can you substitute things? All right. So pre-designing a well is a little bit different than doing the substitutions, because what you're doing is you're taking a well, you're actually designing that well ahead of time, and you're pre-ordering the materials in advance. So you're going to have to understand what's going on in that aquifer, what you're likely to encounter, and then and how the well is going to be built based on that aquifer, and then you're going to pre-order that material. So there's some pros to this and there's some cons to this. We're going to run through that here. So really the first pro is it's going to shorten your lead time. So the materials are going to be available when they're needed. So if you know that you're going to be building this well in 6 to 9 months and you order now to try to get around any supply chain disruptions or to know the material is going to be there, you're going to be able to stockpile that and have that around. Now, there has to be room to store this, and so drillers a lot of times have their yards. If you pre-selected your driller, obviously they have their yards and they have a certain amount of storage for this stuff. So you're going to have to kind of negotiate that out with them. If it's a decent sized job, then it's pretty easy to negotiate some storage space for these things. And then the driller knows it behooves the driller to work with you on this and store it, because they don't want a lot of disruptions on the job either. I mean, nothing cuts into their profits more than to come on and off the job, and because you don't have the materials you need. So negotiating with them and working it out where you can order the materials and store it in their yard probably is not a bad way to go on that. And I think most of them will work with you on that. Cost savings due to inflation and other escalating cost factors. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of inflation. Inflation in some areas is hitting double digits, and they're really expecting in 2022 for us to really start seeing a lot of double-digit inflation. So I will tell you that pre-ordering your materials at today's prices can actually save you money, especially if your cost of storage is pretty much nil. If you've negotiated that out with your driller to store the materials, so your storage costs are relatively low, then ordering now and locking in those prices is important. Now, we've seen people or a lot of suppliers out there for different things, even like on tanks and stuff like that, that say our price quote is good for 30 days or 60 days. We're seeing a lot of 30-day quotes. You got to order within 30 days. This price is only good for 30 days because materials costs are going up so fast. So this is really this can be a huge deal. Is if you're looking at double-digit inflation, material that goes up 10% between the time you've spec'd it and you've bid the project and the time you're obtaining the materials can really affect your profitability on the job. I mean, it can make your profitability evaporate completely. So by locking in the costs and ordering in advance, you really have the opportunity to, in a sense, in a lot of senses, lock in, or at least come close to locking in some of your profit margin as well. So this is a good deal, and I don't think based on what I've seen, that we're going to see inflation really cut back here in 2022, or at least not for the beginning of 2022. I think we're going to be dealing with it for a while, and so it's going to be a challenge we're going to have to deal with. So this is one strategy, is to pre-order the material. Okay, so another thing we want to look at is just reduce stress on everybody concerned. So your client, you, everybody out there is going to have a lot less stress knowing you have the materials, and you're not going to be sweating it out when you get there to the point where you need them, and you can't have that normal 3 or 4 day lead time where you order the materials and it shows up, and now you're looking at 6 months, and that's a lot of stress. So knowing that you have the material and you can proceed on schedule and on budget, then there's a lot better likelihood of completing the job on time, and you're not getting into arguments, and sometimes clients aren't as understanding as there could be on this thing. So don't discount the reduced stress factor. That's definitely for sure. All right, so some of the cons obviously are we're going to have a more conservative design on our well. We're not going to have the benefit of being able to order the materials after we've logged it geologically, geophysically, taken sieve tests, and really dialed those things in. We don't have that, so we're going to have a lot more conservative design on our well. And that, of course, is going to lead to probably a less than optimal design. How much less, you don't really know, but that's going to come at well efficiency. So we may not have a well that's as efficient as it might be if we're pre-designing that well. So that's one of the considerations you need to take into account. How much of that can we live with, and is it worthwhile? Do we need to squeeze every last drop of water out and make the well as efficient as possible? Then there's maybe need to be some other answers here, but I would say it's usually that the trade-off, I think, in well efficiency isn't going to be that great. So we really pride ourselves on getting as efficient a well as possible, but that may not be possible in this current circumstances. And another thing to really look at is there's really no way or limited ways to account for unexpected conditions you may run into. The aquifer may not be as planned, or you may run into groundwater contaminants, nitrate issues, or some things you did not plan. And then you have limited options to deal with those things on the fly if you pre-ordered your materials. Now, maybe you can go out and substitute those things. There may be some opportunities to do some horse trading out there. All that is certainly an option, but it's something that you need to take into account. And as you're pre-designing your well, you really need to take these cons into consideration as well as the pros, and balance that out to see how that actually works for you, and see if it's worth taking that risk. In most cases, in the case of an aquifer where you have existing wells and you have known conditions, the risk may not really be that great. But if you're in an area where you've never put in a well before, or there is limited data, the risks may be higher. So it depends on what your risk tolerance is for those types of things. Okay, well, no guests, I guess. So let's look at some other considerations we have here. I guess nobody's brave enough to come on. So if you want to come on, now's the opportunity to do it. Just click that link. Let me put that back in there just so people can, if somebody's tuning in now, let me put that link back in for you. There it is on LinkedIn, and here it is on YouTube. So there you go. There's our. If you want to hop on, there's the link to do so. Or forever hold your peace. But I'd love to have you on. It would be fun to chat. So grab that link and you can just pop on, and I'll bring you on. So we'll do that on the fly. So all right. So next up, other considerations. So first off, how well do you understand your hydrogeology? How well do you understand your aquifer? Do you know the characteristics of that aquifer, the hydraulic conductivity, the general grain size that you're going to design for? These things will all help in a pre-design, because if you know what pretty much roughly what your gravel and your slot size needs to be on your well, then that's going to make it relatively easy. Now, the other thing is where are our aquifer zones? What zones are we going to screen? That sometimes becomes a little more iffy without having a geologic and geophysical log. But if you have a lot of other well data in the area, then a lot of times you can take that into account. And if you're out in say the Central Valley of California, and your aquifers are fairly consistent across thousands of feet or even a mile, then that risk probably isn't really high. Your aquifer characteristics are going to be the same, and you may have some flexibility to move that screen up and down a little bit, but for the most part, you may have that data, and you can study that and really be able to take that into account as well. Now, alluvial versus fractured rock wells. A lot of times, fractured rock wells are going to be open hole, but we don't always know. So a lot of times we go into fractured rock wells, and we're generally planning on them being open hole wells, but there are times we get out there where those wells are fractured enough, we get spalling and stuff going on, that we have to change our mind and go in and screen and gravel pack them. And sometimes you just can't. You just can't prevent that. So we don't always know. So a fractured rock well can be a little bit more of a wild card than an alluvial well. A lot of times, an alluvial well in an area where we have other wells is pretty much a known quantity, and we know pretty much where we're going to hit our aquifer zones, and so it's going to be a little more predictable, and that makes pre-designing a well in those conditions a little bit easier. And then things like groundwater contaminants, like I mentioned earlier, you may run into some nitrates, you may run into some arsenic. This might be something that's unexpected, that you did not expect. And if you haven't pre-designed your well, then really what you have then is a situation where you may be missing an opportunity to actually design that well so you can seal off these contaminated zones, extend your seal, and seal off the nitrates. Or if you have specific high arsenic zones that you encounter in your well, to test for that and design the well so that you're sealing those off and reduce the concentrations. Probably not as much of an opportunity to do that if you've pre-designed your well. So that's certainly something to take into account as well. So, all right. So that's basically the considerations for pre-designing your well, some pros and cons, substitutions, and some other considerations to really take into account that particular decision. So it shouldn't be made lightly, but in light of the supply chain problems we're facing, it's really something that people should consider if they have an absolute must project that's going forward, a big municipal well, is to really look at pre-designing that well and the opportunities there to do that. All right, moving on. So we did want to talk a little bit today about California's groundwater, which is Department of Water Resources Bulletin 118, the 2020 update. Bulletin 118 is the venerable document that has been out there for quite a number of years. It basically is is the definitive state-sponsored information on groundwater basins and general groundwater characteristics in the state of California. It's a great reference. You should have it. It's available online. We'll look at that. We'll go through it here real quick, and then there is now a companion application that goes with that, an online website that's California's Groundwater Live, and I'll walk you through that real quick as well. So. Grab a drink of water here, and we will move on. All right, so this is what this looks like here. This is the cover of the document, Bulletin 118, the 2020 update, and produced by the California Department of Water Resources. There's a lot of consultant input into this as well. I know there's been a number of consultants that have worked on this, and so it is a collaborative document. And when we dive into it a little bit, you see why that is, because there's just a ton of information here. And below there is the URL to get at this thing. You can go to water.ca.gov or you can just search for California's Groundwater DWR Bulletin 118, and that will take it to you as well if you haven't written down this. There's really no way for me to right now just kind of drop that into chat or anything. So it's so you have to copy that down or search for it. So I really wish there was a way on these live streams to actually have live links, but right now that's not possible on this setup. So, all right, so let's look at this, and here we go. We come to the page. This is when you go to that link I just gave you. This is the page you're looking at. This is your intro to things. You'll see there's a number of tabs down here. You got the history of this report, some other data tools, some other reports. You can see 2013, 2016, 2003, all the way back to 1980. This report goes back. There are some regional reports out there that break this out, some basin descriptions of the different basins. There's a basin boundary GIS study that's available here. You can actually download and put into your GIS system or Google Earth basin boundaries and some information. So it's definitely a good document. This is the starting place here. So there's some other information as well. So this is what it looks like online. And you can see here, we scroll down. It's all downloadable. You can actually preview it online if you want. I find it easier to download it, but that's just me. If you don't want to take the download time, you can scroll through it online. I just find it a little more awkward to use online. There is a how to use it. I'll show you that in just a minute. The full report, there's actually a highlight section that basically is kind of like an executive summary that is actually quite good just in and of itself. There's the statewide report, chapters 1 through 7, and that's going to be another executive summary. And then chapters 1 through 6 basically go through the background on groundwater in the state of California. Chapter 7 actually goes into the actual different the major groundwater basins or major groundwater areas in the state, and it breaks those things out and provides different basin descriptions, and so there's a lot of fine detail there. So we'll look at the Groundwater Live page here in just a little bit. And then there's some appendices, findings and recommendations, glossary, methods and assumptions, citations, references, understanding and managing groundwater, hydrologic region basin maps with basin tables is Appendix F. And then some other appendices with different water use data, hydrologic regions. So a lot of good information here. and then some other information as well that you can download data sets from here. So production well information, groundwater level in wells, water quality monitoring. There's a series of monitoring wells throughout the state. So ton of information here. If you're interested in groundwater in California, you can see that there's really a lot of information. So this is what this looks like online. You can see why I'm not really a fan of this of looking at it online, because it's a little truncated here, and you got to kind of scroll through it this way. So that's um, that's a little more challenging to me. I think some people you can download the PDF from here, but I think some people it may be fine just scroll through it, but I prefer to download it and look at it that way. And then one more thing is the critically overdrafted basins. There's a number of basins in the state that are critically overdrafted. Those are the ones where they focused on coming up with the groundwater sustainability plans. And so you can see those here, and there's some information on that that's linked from that main page. So also from there, you can actually get the Sigma data viewer. So this is a lot of this overlaps with the Groundwater Live. I'm going to show you in a little bit, but this just kind of is a quick tour. It steps you through the different components of this, and so you can see you got some seasonal reports. You can go spring or fall of fall of 2019. So get zoom in a little bit. This we'd have to zoom in here. So, and you can see here's our contours in the Central Valley, for instance. From this would be fall of 2019. So you can see the groundwater contours. We can actually from here. Okay, we'd have to zoom in a little bit more to get that. So I'm not going to show you that right now, because we'll look at that on a different map. But this is also available there as well. So a lot of information on that page. So that's going back here. This is your starting point for all this stuff. You scroll through these different tabs, and you can pick up all this information from here. So good stuff. Let me show you what that looks like. Let's go dive into now what it looks like here. This is the PDF version that I've downloaded, and we'll start once again. We'll start with this is the table of contents. And so we can see we get an introduction. There's actually the whole highlight section before that. We have our introduction. Chapter 2 is groundwater occurrence, economic value, climate change policy. So it goes through some of that background. Chapter 3 discusses use, extraction, water budgets, and so how that process really looks like. Chapter 4 discuss groundwater management in California. So all the various laws and agencies that protect groundwater or regulate groundwater in California, all their different roles here. And then it talks a little bit about the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, which is kind of where everybody's going. Their groundwater management plans and groundwater sustainability agencies are really part of this Sigma. So it discusses that in great detail. You can see there's a lot of Sigma information here, and then technical and financial assistance it talks a little bit about where that's available as well, and then sustainability agencies. Talks a little bit. Chapter 5 talks about groundwater monitoring in the state. So the state has a network of about 4,500 monitoring wells scattered throughout the state that collect data at various. Some of it's doing it in real time. Some of it's doing it on a daily basis, and so some of it's water quality data, some of it's water level data only. But there is a network. There's also stream gauges and actually even seawater intrusion monitoring going on. So a lot of data being gathered there. That information is all available online. And then groundwater conditions is another one too. Obviously, changing water levels and water quality is a huge issue. So this section talks about that. And then really kind of the meat of the report, as far as I'm concerned, is the different hydrologic regions summaries. And so California has a number of those. The North Coast, San Francisco Bay, Central Coast, South Coast, Sacramento River, San Joaquin River, Tulare Lake, North Lahontan, South Lahontan, and Colorado River regions. These roughly equate to the different regional water boards, and so that's how things are broken out. And then there's individual groundwater basins within those areas. And then there's a whole series of appendices as well that go with this, and you can download all that tables. You can see that here. So let me dive in a little bit. Let me just drop in here to some of these different sections. This is kind of a outlay of the entire report, so you can see. For instance, this is some basic stuff, starting with the hydrologic cycle. Most people watching this is probably just really basic stuff, but some people might not understand this. But the concept of the groundwater basin, how basins are broken out in California, and basins and subbasins. So that may be of interest to people that don't quite understand how that process works. A little history here. And then there's non-basin areas, which are a lot of these are fractured rock aquifers, Sierra Nevada meadows, and so these are areas where groundwater is extracted but aren't actually managed as a basin. So they have certain characteristics to them, and they do get regulatory oversight, obviously, but they're just not managed under SGMA. Because they don't really constitute a manageable basin per se. But that does come into consideration. The fractured rock aquifers that I deal a lot with are certainly come into play in that as well. So volcanic aquifers, I still consider those fractured rock, but a lot of times those can actually be considered pseudo karst. So they lava tube. They operate in a little bit different ways. So, but still not defined as a groundwater basin per se. So, looking at small community water systems in non-basin areas. So a lot of these are running off of fractured rock wells. And so you can see that a lot of these small systems outside are relying on groundwater, but there's a significant number that rely on surface water as well. So let me skip ahead here a little bit. There are, I wanted to get into some of this other data. You can see there's a tremendous amount of data here. This is domestic wells in the state. You can see how those are distributed based on well completion reports, irrigation wells, and municipal wells. I think are in here somewhere, but I'm not seeing those. So I know we got some data on municipal wells also. So let me go down here to what do we got here? This is SGMA implementation activities. This is a little outline of how SGMA, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, is being implemented. So that's in there as well. Talking a little bit about that. But what I really wanted to get down to was the the real, and you can see there's a lot of information here. So we get into this. Here's the monitoring networks. These are groundwater level monitoring wells by monitoring program 2015 through 2018. So you can see a lot of those in the Central Valley, which is really important. Here is by collecting agency, broken out a number of different ways here by well use type. So different data on the monitoring network in the state. So measurement frequency, you can see some of these are measured more often than others. So the quality of the data or the frequency of the data, it can make a big difference. But you can sort these things by on the databases you go to. You can sort them by that. So let me. I'm just scrolling through here and kind of showing you what's in here, but where I wanted to get to is down to the end here where chapter 7, we really have our hydrologic region summaries, and this is looking at the state in total. The hydrologic regions are covered. Don't quite cover the entire. Well, they do cover the entire state. So here we go, North Coast Hydrogeologic Region. You can see that they break it out by groundwater use, population, urban land, and there's a map showing this. The land use and water use. So application of groundwater is mainly agricultural in that area, and with some urban, not heavily populated up in the North Coast area. And so this is just providing a lot of information on these areas and breaking things out, domestic versus irrigation wells. You can see groundwater level estimates, the trend slopes here, and that's really important. We'll look at that here in just a minute. Some contaminants, what's showing up out there. So the biggie, one of the biggies is TDS, uranium, trichlorophosphate, or TCP, yeah, trichloropropane, arsenic and nitrates. Arsenic and nitrates show up a lot. Uranium shows up a lot where you get fractured rocks, especially, although not always exclusive to fractured rocks. So groundwater surface water interaction, we're paying a lot more attention to that these days. So and some different highlights. This now shows the basins and the sub-basins. So this is important because these are the areas that kind of get managed as one. So the groundwater basins then usually are managed as one area, and the sub-basins usually will break that out. So it's important to understand where the basins are and the sub-basins, and when you're not in a basin, because the regulation is a little different when you're not in a basin. So this is the basin and sub-basin list. And this is pretty much the same for every one of these hydrologic regions. See, we get into San Francisco Bay here, a lot smaller region. You're going to see a lot more urban land, and you can see there's a lot more urban use than agricultural use in this area, whereas the North Coast region, we really saw just a small urban use and not a whole lot of groundwater being used for urban, and a lot of it being used for agriculture. So this then is kind of how this is laid out. There, like I say, there's a lot of summary information in here. It's going to generally be summary type information, but when you get down here and you get into the basins and the sub-basins, this is what's important from a management and regulatory aspect. So understanding what basin and sub-basin you're in is really going to dictate how your water gets managed by the Regional Water Quality Control Board that's applicable for this particular area. So that with that, let me let me flip back here. Okay, so Steve is asking anything on stratigraphy versus groundwater chemistry. There is some, but it's really in a general sense. So it's not real specific. So you're not going to go to a region and say we have more arsenic than normal in this region. It's one of the top contaminants, and tie it back to stratigraphy. It's just not possible in a report like this because there's so many different stratigraphies out there in these different basins. They're going to vary geologically and hydrogeologically, and so trying to tie the groundwater chemistry back to the basin stratigraphies it would just make for a monumental report. So there is some of that data, but unfortunately, the what'll happen is as these groundwater sustainability plans get put together, and a lot of them are already in, they go into a lot more detail than that. So that's where you would go for that information on specific contaminants in a specific basin, tied back to the stratigraphy is not in this report, which is going to be a lot more general, but in the uh, groundwater sustainability plans, the GSPs, is I'm calling them different things, but they're GSPs, groundwater sustainability plans. That should take that into account because that's going to dictate a lot of things there. So, all right. So, then let me go to something that's a little more specific here. Let's look at our California's Groundwater Live. This is this online tool that you can research. And this is the page you come to when you first start on this. So it's got, you can go to current conditions. So these are the current groundwater conditions in the state. And this is going to be based on the state's groundwater monitoring network. Some of these monitoring wells, I should point out, are dual purpose. They're being used for extraction or agriculture and also for monitoring. So there's a number of different uses for these things. There's some straight out groundwater monitoring wells that are monitored by the state of California. There's some USGS wells that are also monitored. So there's a number of different types of the wells and who operates them and what purpose they are for out there. And all that data gets collected and it is available here. So we can look at groundwater levels here. We can look at the well infrastructure and also land subsidence, which is a big deal down in the southern part of the Central Valley where the Corcoran clay is, because we do get significant subsidence down there, but there's subsidence going on in other areas as well. So anyway, current conditions here. This is basically just a quick snapshot of current conditions in the state. You can see that of the monitoring wells, 74% of the monitoring wells right now are below their normal level, 17% are at normal level, and only 9% are above their normal level. And I suspect a lot of that 9% is in areas where you got active groundwater recharge going on. That would be my suspicion on those. We'd have to drill down to really find that, and we don't have time to do that here. So you can see here we have drought status, we have reservoir conditions, statewide water conditions, and so so you can dial in on that information as well. Current groundwater level information. So you can click those buttons up at the top here, or you can just actually just scroll down. It gets you to the same place. But here now, here's our monitoring network. This is kind of the current water level information. So we can click on this, go to our current groundwater levels, current groundwater level conditions, 1, 3, 5, 10-year trends, and 20-year level trends. So let's just look at that real quick. Here it takes a little while to load, and here's what we get. So we can see that we click anywhere on the map here. You're supposed to be able to filter by county and groundwater basin. I'm not seeing where that's working for me right now, so I don't know if that's a bug or something that needs to be fixed, but we can see where we can actually select these by depth of groundwater. Um, you can see that, and eventually you get them all, or you can click off and only select certain ones. So you can see deeper wells down here in the southern part of the valley. Uh, your shallower wells up here less than 25 feet. So these are definitely ag wells here. Um, you can filter by well depth as well. You can filter by last measurement date. But let's just select all, for instance, and um, you can see that what we got is wow. In this network, based on our selection, uh, and I'm not really seeing on our selections. We have 3.5 K wells, 3,500 wells total, 7.1. So I was wrong in the 4.5. It's closer to 7. And you can see right now depth of groundwater 0 to 25, and you have 39 wells in the monitoring network that are greater than 500 feet. So you can check that out as well. Let me go back here and look at some of our. Um, this actually gets at our seasonal groundwater level changes, and so this is interesting from this standpoint. So once again, this takes a little while to load. Here we have 6,200 wells in this network. And I'm really not seeing where things are changing when you do that filter. But for instance, we can go here's our wells, spring 2021, fall of 21. So you can select a season. We can go back and we can see the number of years. So this is a 1 year trend. You got a Here's a 5 year trend. We can see the groundwater level change category, so the decreases of more than 25 feet. You can see that's 167 wells. So not a huge number, but that's still a pretty significant decrease too. So um, 10 years, we can see we got a lot more wells. So over 10 years, so we've got some intervening recharge that's come in here that's kind of impacted that. But we can see over 10 years, we have between 5 and 25 feet. We have a fairly significant number of wells here in our monitoring network that have shown decreases of 5 to 20 to over 25 feet in this network. So that that that's interesting. Um, and then here's our 20-year trends. So once again, takes a little while to load, so you got to wait for it to load up. And then you can once again click to select. So here's where I got our 4.5 number. These are the longer term wells. You can see that these are the wells that have an increasing trend greater than 2.5 feet per year. Not a whole lot of those in the state, mostly down in the south. So the wells that have a decreasing trend of greater than 2.5 feet, you can see those scattered around the state as well. This is over a 20-year period, by the way. So this is interesting information. Now, in all this data that I've showed you, you can actually zoom in here, and so we can zoom in and we can dial in, get down there and looking at, here's a well in Madera, and we can actually pull up the data on that individual well, monitoring well there. So we can see that all the metadata on this well here. So you can do that for any of these monitoring points, and you can actually drill down a little deeper. Um, Here we are, Highway 99, south of Merced. And once again, here's the water level trend here. And so we can see what's going on there. Um, so that's that. That then is that. So then there's a link to take us back. Now, well infrastructure. This this allows us to look at public supply wells, reported dry wells, irrigation wells. Let's look at public supply wells. And I know we're going a little over on our time here, but I wanted to run this by you one more time. So this is our water supply wells in the state. So we can have our community type wells. So you can see those distributed throughout the state. Once again, I'm not seeing where that does us much good. Well, non-community and then transient non-community. So you can see that these are the wells. The majority of these are going to be community type water systems. So you can see where those are. We once again can dial in and get information on individual wells, I believe. So this will tell you the number of connections, the system type, the well name, uh, um, latitude, longitude, who the owner is. Um, there's no water quality data tied to this right now that I can tell. So unfortunately that is not the case. Let's look at some other ones here. Yeah, just not any water data quality tied to these things. So that's unfortunate. I'm hoping that these things will certainly come to play. If you're looking at domestic wells, if you're looking at irrigation wells, if you're looking at public supply wells, um, here we go. So a lot of data there. So and once again, like I say, you can look at the data on these things and get that much anyway. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. So here's reported dry wells also. So and lastly, what's here is land subsidence. So let's look at this. There is two types of data that's collected here: continuous GPS station data and INSAR remote sensing data. That's satellite data. So as well, but it's probably the better data set. So let's just look at that real quick, and I'll show you what that looks like. So same type of map, takes a little while to load. This is all based on ArcGIS systems. So we get out here and we're going to look at the most current water year for which there is data available, and we can see that most of the subsidence or the heavy duty subsidence is happening down southern Central Valley. That's in the area of the Corcoran Clay. So it's certainly an area that we know has subsidence going on, and the Corcoran Clay is a big part of that. However, we have other areas in the Central Valley and some smaller areas farther north that we can see, kind of along the margins up in the northern Central Valley, where we do get north of Sacramento, where we do get some subsidence going along in the valley as well. So there is subsidence outside of that big Corcoran Clay area to the south, but that is the biggest subsidence area in the state. So that's So Dirk says, I expect that water levels will drop significantly with the drought going on. This is true. So we're probably going to see these trends continue. Now, Northern California, I know, has been getting some rain lately, so that might forestall that a little bit. But the general trend is towards greater drought conditions, and so that's probably going to continue, and we're going to see these longer term trends drop actually. So that is true. So and hey, Erica, for dropping in. Welcome. Thanks for coming in and sitting through my technical talk here. All right, so that's mainly a wrap for today. This is how you can get a hold of me, T Ballard at Groundwater Guy. If you got any suggestions for future topics or want to make some general comments, I'd certainly appreciate hearing from you. I'm always interested in your input. Um, This is where we stream. So we stream into YouTube on the Groundwater Guy YouTube channel. I don't even put the URL up there anymore because it's long and cryptic and nobody will remember it anyway. So just the Groundwater Guy YouTube channel. And then on LinkedIn, I'm T Ballard at my LinkedIn profile. We stream in there. LinkedIn is still a little funky on their live streams. You got to go to your profile page and set it up from there. So that's where you have to go. So this is the link to my profile page, and that's where you can watch me on LinkedIn. But I stream both places simultaneously. We store all the videos on the Groundwater Guy YouTube channel, so you're welcome to go back and we got a pretty good library going on right now. So you're welcome to go back and go through and check out the different topics we have. There's some interesting information there. Um, if you want to be a guest on Groundwater Talk Live, here's the book me line. So just go there and sign up to be a guest. We'd love to have you if you got a groundwater topic you want to discuss. So you think would add you got some technical expertise. So you think water system operators, geologists, engineers, or just people interested in water might be interested in. Certainly come on. We definitely want to have Dirk on sometime showing his well videos, and so we're trying to work that out as well. So that's all good. So just a reminder about the upcoming training next week. Once again, shameless plug coming up December 21st on the well health check process for diagnosing. Yeah. Yeah, I'm working on getting Ned on. He's camera shy, I think. So, but Ned's got a lot of great information, a lot of great stories. I really need to get him on here. So Dirk, if you can apply some pressure, I'll apply some pressure, and we'll get Ned on. I think it would be a great show, just sharing Ned Marks's stories. He does a lot of great posts on LinkedIn. If you don't know who Ned Marks is, quite a smart guy, but and knows his stuff. But he does a lot of great posts. Got a lot of great knowledge. So we definitely need to get him on here. So this is coming up next week. So you can sign up, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You'll get notices when we have our latest. Okay. All right. Well, I'll keep working on him. We'll apply some pressure for him. Maybe I'll have to send him a bribe or something. I don't know, a pound cake for Christmas or something. So don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you'll get notifications when we post a new video. We do these weekly every Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Central. So we really appreciate people showing up and watching this. And Erica likes our graphics. Thank you very much. I'm like, we're getting better. We're getting better. So, and lastly, we're coming up on Christmas, and I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. We'll probably do a couple shows the next couple Thursdays. They'll probably be a little more informal. So maybe we can get some folks on and just kind of chat about groundwater in general. But if I don't have a chance to talk to you, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a great New Year's, and we're gonna do some more fun stuff after the first of the year. Get some more guests on and have a lot more fun with this. We're gonna keep going. I'm getting more comfortable every week. So God bless everybody and have a great Christmas. We will see you next.